Okay, our first speaker in this session is Sam Connell. Sam is an experienced minerals industry geologist with exploration experience in both South Australia and Queensland. He's currently working in the GSSA as the technical lead for the Digital Explanatory Notes team with the SADM project. Please welcome Sam.
Can you hear me? Cool. Thanks for that, Phil. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be up here and to provide you with some insights into the Digital Explanatory Notes, which is part of the South Australian Discovery Mapping Project, which I'll refer to as SADM for short. There's been some talks on SADM in previous years, but I'm going to try and build on that today. Okay, so I'm going to start off with why straight up. People often want to know why we're doing this. So what SADM is, it's a new future-ready system for the capture, storage and delivery of digital data. And what the project's all about is getting pre-competitive data out there to industry in a usable format. And we want to be setting users up for success. So that means we need to have a quality source of accessible, user-friendly data. We need it to be digital to enable data-driven exploration. And we need it to be updatable in order to be future-ready. And this will apply for both spatial and text data. So I'll go through a refresher on what it is we're doing in the DEN team, which is basically compiling geological text into short reports to make it more usable. I'll then go through the way we've structured those 4 reports. And what we're aiming to do is connect those 4 types and give you a more holistic understanding of the state. I'll then go through why this might be useful and why sort of uncovering or accessing information can highlight some unrecognised potential. And I'll use the Officer Basin as a case study there, where we've got some base metal anomalism and some applications to the energy sector. So just to refresh you with the SADM structure, so Explanatory Notes team is at the back end with the spatial data team, and that data is then going to feed into a new system to be delivered by SARIG. Now, for the work we do, sometimes we want to take as most recent data as we can. So data that's the survey's doing, we want to be using that, incorporating that. But in addition, we want to be making sure that we're delving right back into the past, getting that historic information, make sure that's not lost. So that's coming into our reports as well. I also want to touch on this, so probably for the younger geologists out there, there are currently geological explanatory notes which are associated with the 1 to 250k map sheets which make up our state. So these are a great resource. There's a wealth of information there. They are due for an update. So they were published from the 60s through to the 90s. And because of that, and because they were done by different authors, sometimes the geology doesn't link together like we would like. And you'll hear from Frank and Rashid, as Paul mentioned this morning. They've done some excellent work, so we'll hear from them later on. I like to try and think of what we're doing as from a bit of a core analogy. So we're all guilty in exploration. Well, teams I've worked in, we are. Just putting all the core in one spot, we'll deal with that at a later time. But if you wanted to access some core from there and analyse it or sample it, that's going to be pretty difficult, as opposed to a system like this where everything's accessible and usable. You can take something out and do some work on it. Right, onto the explanatory notes. So as I mentioned, these are short reports, and what we're doing is compiling, we're taking information from lots of different sources and streamlining the way that is accessed. And importantly, that information will be statewide descriptions. It's not just for one area, it's statewide. And it will link to the mapping data that we've already seen. There you go. This will then feed into, we're going to deliver it via a new web page, which might look something similar to this. There'll be some sort of information tabs to help guide you through that. It'll be interactive, so you can click on links and they'll take you to new notes. We've got to provide references, so you can do some follow-up reading on it. And there will also be a full PDF version to download of all the notes. So as I mentioned, we've structured the reports into 4 different types, and I'm going to go through these in turn. But firstly, I just wanted to touch on the title, which I've called Linking Essays Geology. And for us, this is about having this holistic view of this work. And that means, and this concept of seamless data. And seamless means connected, and that's what we've tried to do with these report types. They're going to link geological processes and get us thinking a bit more broadly. Right, so let's jump into those report types. So magnetic state map, and one way we do like to break down geology so we can understand it. One way you can do that is by provinces, and I think doing this you don't lose valuable geological information because you're not crossing major geological boundaries. So I've very roughly drawn some of the major provinces we have on here. There's many more than this, a lot of sub-provinces. And I'm going to focus the rest of the talk on the Officer Basin, which is in the northwest of the state. So let's zoom into there. So the Officer sits between the Musgrave province and the Gawler province. And I'm taking this here because this is an area we've already done the compilation work on. So we've been working on this for a while. This is an area we've already done the work on. So the project is going to populate reports for all the geological provinces of the state. And we're going to use some of the headings listed there, but I think this will be important for exploration models on different scales. Just for interest, that's just a depth to basement model. So that shows the Musgrave, Gawler and the deeper Officer. Then of course, provinces are made up of geological units or stratigraphy. So that's the next part of the project. So let's cut a slice through that Officer province. And we'll look something like this. Officer is a deep basin with a large sedimentary pile. Strat column on the right. So the project is also generating reports on individual geological units. So if we pick a few from the Marla group there, this is what we're doing. So we ideally want to paint a picture in the reader's mind about the characteristics of those rocks and how they relate to each other. And I think that's also applicable to exploration, both the minerals and the energy industry. Understanding these rocks and the host rocks and any potential they have. Throughout time, the rocks and the province will be affected by major geological events. So this refers to metamorphism or deformational processes. So the project will also we thought it would be good to do reports on all the major events that have affected South Australia. So I've got some major events listed there. In terms of, if we stick with the Officer Basin was affected by the bottom 3 events there. Again, we'll be describing metamorphism, tectonic processes, deformation, major structures. And I think, again, this is important. If you want to understand an area, you're putting together a geological model, you want to know the history of these rocks. You want to know about major structures and fluid pathways. If you stick with me, we've got one more report type called time slices, and I think Paul's already started mentioning this. So this concept kind of ties it all together, and it's quite powerful. It gives a whole statewide perspective just for a certain time. And I think I think of mineral deposits when I think of time slices. We know mineral deposits often occur in specific time windows. So if we go through the officer again, just as an example, so during the Cambrian time slice, we've got stratigraphy being deposited into the officer following the Peterman event. We've then had that terminated by the Delamerian event. And then in the next time slice down, that stratigraphy's been buried. We've had the Alice Springs event, which has then generated some secondary processes on those rocks. So they're the 4 reports, and hopefully you can see by structuring it this way, we're linking geological processes and thinking a bit more holistically. And I think it gives you a good chance to understand the geology of an area. So in terms of using this data, could be for exploration companies. You're going to be making decisions on tenements. You're going to be wanting to put together a geological model, well, what we've done is we've already done the compilation for this work, so I'll keep focusing on the Officer Basin. And what I think our reports will help with is they can uncover or bring to light data which might have been overlooked or has been buried away in a report, or maybe it's brand new data that just hasn't been put out there to the public. So our aim is to get that information out there, regardless of if it's old or new. So I guess one example of that, if I keep on the officer theme, just from the work we've done, we've got some base metal anomalism in certain stratigraphy in the Marla group. So you can see here, this facies here is actually anomalous in base metals. And if I was to zoom in on that, we've actually got pyrite with some sphalerite and galena in there as well. So that's one example from a minerals point of view. The officer's also quite prospective from an energy point of view. It's got a lot of salt deposits. You've got salt tectonics happening. We've got hydrocarbon shows identified, which are all things sort of for future applications in this space. And this area is actually being explored at the moment. If I took that a step further, there's some work done in WA that actually links these 2 exploration models. So using sort of petroleum models to look for base metals, and maybe that's something that could be applied in the officer region. I just wanted to show this because this is the sort of thinking that's come up for us, just from us doing this compilation work. But this could be applied anywhere in the state based on, once you get access to these explanatory notes and the mapping data, let's start applying these ideas elsewhere. So just to recap, we're compiling geological text into short reports, aimed to make it more usable and accessible. We've done 4 categories to try and link South Australia's geology, get us a better understanding. And we hope that giving you the data in this way will help generate some new ideas in the resource space. So final message, I just want to reiterate, this is really about getting pre-competitive data out to industry and really future-proofing the system. That's an important point. And also starting to foster some new workflows from accessing this data. That's it for me. You can find some more info on the Saturn project, these links, but I just also wanted to acknowledge there's a team working really hard on this project to get this data out to the industry. I've just been helping them out, and I get to stand up here and tell everyone about it, but yeah, acknowledgements to these guys, and yeah, thanks very much.